Amazing gang leader exposes unjust arrest attempt, transforming life of one black woman forever. Jada Thompson felt the warm Atlanta air cloak around her as she took a deep breath, the fading sunlight casting long shadows on the pavement. It was a typical evening in her neighborhood, filled with the distant laughter of children and street vendors calling out their wares. But tonight, something shifted. Her heart raced as she turned the corner and felt an electric tension in the air. No sooner had the neon lights flickered to life than an alarming commotion broke through the routine hum of the streets. There, in an explosive display of authority, were police officers dragging her brother Marcus out of his car. His frantic pleas were drowned by the chorus of angry voices that erupted around them. "You've got the wrong guy," he shouted, his face a mask of confusion and helplessness. The sight twisted in her gut like a knife. This wasn't just an arrest, it was an assault on their family. Determined, Jada pushed through the crowd, adrenaline fueling her every step. How could they treat him like this? A frenzied mix of fear for Marcus surged alongside a swelling anger towards the system that had served them so poorly. She thought of her mother, a dedicated nurse who had worked tirelessly to shield them from these injustices. But this moment laid bare the realization of their reality, the very world Jada had dreamt of escaping through law school. Then, panic surged through her mind. What if she spoke? What if she brought attention to this wrongful arrest? The heaviness of her mission to become a lawyer felt like an iron weight bearing down on her. Could her words really create change? Or would they put her family at greater risk? The aching thought of sacrificing her brother, of exposing them both to the world's unmerciful gaze, sent tremors of doubt through her core. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jada's thoughts spiraled, each question cementing her turmoil. If she spoke out, would she become a target as well? The weight of potential failure dragged her down, an ominous shadow looming over her bright future. Yet the anger at injustice ignited a flame within her. This was not just about Marcus, it was about all the Marcuses out there, unheard and dehumanized. But the fear of retaliation gnawed at her resolve, squeezing an iron grip around her heart. As she stood paralyzed at the edge of the chaos, she saw her brother's tear-streaked face punctuating her thoughts. The dawning realization hit her with merciless clarity. Silence was complicity. Her mind raced, each conflicting thought smashing into the next. Fear versus love, justice versus safety. How deeply did she believe in her cause when weighed against the safety of her home and family? With the furious pulse of the crowd resonating around her, Jada was at a precipice. She could feel the world pressing in, an inescapable call to action battling against the suffocating need for self-preservation. This moment, raw and alive with anguish, would mark her journey. Whether she chose to speak out or remain hidden in the shadows, every breath she took filled her with urgency. And in that silence, teetering on a knife's edge, the gavel of fate was poised to fall. One way or another, Jada Thompson would have to decide. Jada's heart pounded in her ears, drowning out the chaos that surrounded her. The voices were a murmur against the roaring demand in her chest. "Do something," urged a little voice that sounded suspiciously like her mother, guiding and comforting but also pressuring. What if she used her education to help others, to fight not just for Marcus, but for everyone who suffered at the hands of a biased system? In that moment, her mind crystallized into a single fiery thought. All her dreams of becoming a lawyer were distilled into this crucial juncture. The foundations she had built wavered. What did law mean if it didn't serve justice? If nobody dared to confront wrongs? The realization both empowered and terrified her. With renewed determination, Jada stepped toward the front lines where Marcus struggled against the officers. Rational thought began to fade, replaced by a primal urge to protect her brother, to represent him in this grotesque theater of injustice. As she approached, a tenuous blend of defiance and fear whispered, "This is your chance." "Stop, you can't do this!" Jada shouted, her voice rising above the uproar. For a moment, time slowed as heads turned towards her, surprise rippling through the crowd. She felt their eyes, curious, appreciative, fearful. Some recognized her, others were drawn by the emotional charge she projected, an unyielding force against oppression. "Miss Thompson, stay back," an officer barked, his gaze sharp but conflicting, a reflection of their precarious position. But hearing her brother's name ignited a fire in her belly. "I'm not going anywhere until you let my brother go. You have no right." The fearless conviction in her voice surprised even her. The eyes around her widened. Perhaps they could all learn something. Perhaps she was indeed stepping into a role she always thought was for someone else. The chaos continued, but Jada's focus sharpened. She embraced that surreal moment, now as a budding advocate rather than a fearful sister. She pictured her future courtroom, imagined standing tall before a judge, armed with facts and evidence, defending the innocent. This moment was a preview, the visceral stage from which she would launch her legal career. Suddenly the crowd surged behind her, individuals rising with their own shouts of solidarity. People no longer content to be silent witnesses. Jada realized she wasn't just a lone voice. She had stirred a collective conscience. Perhaps some whispers of change could in fact resonate in this neighborhood. But that realization conjured an unsettling question. What would it cost? Would the police retaliate against Marcus when the dust settled? A deeper moral quandary emerged. With her small act of rebellion came the knowledge that not everyone could walk such a path, and Marcus could pay the ultimate price for her courage. The risk shot a wave of regret through her. The officer's face darkened, an eruption of authority swelling in his figure, but before he could respond, the crowd's energy shifted. Murmurs grew more assertive, and Jada felt a thrill run through her. This was the torch she had yearned to carry and share. Yet she stood bewildered at the ramifications of her burgeoning leadership. In that moment, she realized the path she had chosen, to fight not just in her own corner but for all those silenced. A pivotal shift occurred within her, stirring a potent ambition. This was about more than family now. This was her inaugural step toward making a tangible impact in a system designed to trap the very people she loved. But with every new horizon came deeper shadows. As the officers begrudgingly began to release Marcus, their grip slowly loosening, Jada was left grappling with a realization she had never prepared for. While she had ignited her voice, she had also painted a target on her own back. The momentary victory was bittersweet, and she could feel the stakes rising. What had she initiated, and what consequences awaited her? No longer a mere aspiration, her ambitions were entangled with a stark, unforgiving reality. As the world around her buzzed with renewed energy and tension, Jada's journey was just beginning. The true battle lay ahead, and her next choice could transform not just her life, but the lives of countless others. Yet, with the taste of triumph also came an underlying dread of retaliation. Could she face the aftermath, or would the courageous facade she had draped for mere moments unravel in the face of brutal reality? The road ahead shimmered with uncertainty, and Jada stood torn between embracing her newfound mission and the dread that enveloped her heart. As the adrenaline of the moment faded, Jada felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her. She navigated through the remnants of the crowd, her heart still racing, the consequences of her actions looming larger with every passing second. The vibrant shouts and defiant chants faded into a dull, thrumming echo in her ears. Assurance that she had done the right thing flickered and waned like a candle flame, challenged by doubts that spiraled from the aftermath. What had she really accomplished? Sure, Marcus was free, but the police had not backed down, they had simply retreated. Had she set in motion something she couldn't control? Her newfound voice had marred her previously quiet existence, dragging her into the crosshairs of the very system she sought to dismantle. She shivered at the intensity of her own ambition, wondering if she had just assumed a mantle too heavy to bear. Each step away from the scene propelled her toward an unsettling realization. She needed a plan, an understanding of how to navigate this newfound territory. Legal battles weren't fought on sheer will or bravado, They required knowledge, strategy, and most importantly, allies. Yet the thought of seeking help made her squirm. It meant exposing herself, revealing vulnerabilities she had long hidden beneath layers of bravado. Who could she trust? As she arrived home, the familiar four walls felt alien, constricted by the invisible weight of her choices. The dinner table stood untouched, a stark contrast to the bustling household she was used to. She could hear murmurs from her family in the living room, unaware of the storm that now brewed within her. She needed to talk, to divulge her fears, her aspirations, and the seriousness of what she had ignited. But how? How could she articulate the complex emotions tumbling inside her? Jada slid into a chair and rested her head in her hands. Where was she headed now that the idea of being a lawyer transformed into something much grander and perhaps more dangerous? This was not merely about case studies and courtroom strategies. It was about lives, not just Marcus's, not just hers, but all those affected by systemic failure. And yet her heart ached with confusion. She had always envisioned her future in a polished courtroom, but what did that mean now? The law was supposed to serve justice, but it felt like a double-edged sword. Would her pursuit put her family at risk? The pressure of witness intimidation, the threat of retaliation loomed large in her mind. Determination surged through her again, battling the trepidation that sought to take hold. She flipped through her mental directory of contacts, recalling her professors from law school, mentors who had encouraged her ambition. But was she ready to turn to them? The words they had shared echoed in her mind, about responsibility and ethics, and how one voice could challenge even the most entrenched systems. Amid her turmoil, inspiration sparked in the depths of her resolve. If she was to make a real change, she had to equip herself. It was time to learn not just about the law, but about advocacy and activism beyond textbooks. She snatched her phone and began to search for local organizations that fought against police violence and discrimination. Opportunities for involvement filled the screen, and each clicked link felt like a lifeline thrown into murky waters. Suddenly, the shadows that had paralyzed her shifted, lighting a pathway forward. Every moment had driven her to this juncture, not only to plead for justice but also to become a beacon for others, a guide navigating the labyrinthine struggles they all faced. Every ounce of uncertainty transformed into a catalyst for action, and she would channel her passion into something actionable. But as Jada began to outline her vision, a sudden thought pierced through her determination. Confronting the authorities would require fierce resolve and undeniable evidence. Would she have the courage and knowledge required to collect and articulate the stories of those wronged? She needed to sharpen her skills and engage deeply with everyone impacted. New connections awaited, ones that could be complex but necessary. And as she contemplated reaching out, she felt the weight of what came next. Could she muster the bravery required to engage those who might challenge her commitment? The uncertainty bubbled within her as she prepared to step into the unfamiliar arena of advocacy. Every choice was a potential turning point, one that could shape not only her journey but the lives of others. As Jada squared her shoulders, a familiar flame ignited within. The keyboard beckoned, a gateway to clarity. But would she be prepared for the real confrontation that was bound to come? With every keystroke, she unknowingly inched closer to a reckoning that would demand everything she had to give. Jada's fingers hovered over the keyboard, tension coiling tightly in her chest. Each letter typed felt like a decision, a commitment to an unseen future. She crafted her first email to a local organization, one dedicated to aiding victims of police discrimination. A knot of hesitation tightened in her stomach. Was she ready to use her voice for others, knowing the possible repercussions? She pressed send, heart racing. Would this be the first step into a more profound commitment or just another message lost to the ether? The thought unsettled her, but she knew better than to linger in doubt. Engaging with this organization could provide her with mentors and invaluable information that would prepare her for the battles ahead. As the hours slipped by, Jada found herself delving deep into research. Cases of injustice sprawled across her screen, details of each story complex and heart-wrenching. She analyzed the systemic failures behind them, law enforcement patterns, courtroom disparities, and the political machinations that allowed these atrocities to persist. Yet with every disturbing revelation, she felt more empowered. Knowledge was becoming her armor. She realized her education had been theoretical, a series of classroom lectures void of real-world context. Now, each statistic and anecdote fueled her determination to transcend the passive role she had inhabited for so long. She would not be merely a law student. She would become an advocate, a disruptor wielding insight as a weapon against systemic inequity. Days rolled into weeks, and Jada dove headfirst into activism. She started attending community meetings, sitting quietly at first, absorbing the frustrations and triumphs of those who were fighting the same battle. Slowly, she began to share her thoughts, her voice weaving through the conversations like a current. Each time she spoke, her confidence burgeoned, while simultaneously challenging the narratives she once accepted without question. She formed connections that soon evolved into friendships. A former attorney turned activist, an outspoken journalist, and a social worker whose faith in the system had been shattered by too many broken pleas for help. They offered her invaluable insights, framing her understanding and sharpening her focus. Every meeting felt like stepping into a forge, where her ideas were tempered and strengthened by shared experiences. It wasn't long before Jada faced her first moral dilemma. At a meeting, a plan was proposed to confront an officer involved in a recent high-profile case. The discussion pulsed with intensity, each person weighing the potential risks against the imperative for accountability. Jada listened closely, feeling an ambivalent tug within herself. Did speaking out in person risk escalating their plight? Then she thought of Marcus, of everyone let down by the very system they intended to expose. Squaring her shoulders, she raised her hand. What if we could gather evidence first? Go in prepared and informed? The room simmered with approval, and a new strategy began to formulate around her suggestion. As they moved forward, the initial fear morphed into a collective resolve. They were building a support structure, and Jada played a pivotal role. Yet anxiety lingered just beneath her skin. As her involvement deepened, so did threats, dark whispers of intimidation from varying sources. Would her family be in danger because of her choices? Each time she received an ominous message or felt someone watching her, she wrestled with the thought of abandoning this path of advocacy. Could she truly bear the mantle of responsibility? Focus sharpened, Jada's resolve wavered before it solidified. She recalled the faces of those she fought for, the children, the families, the individuals crushed by indifference. With her heart pounding, she decided to take it a step further. The local organization was hosting a larger meeting and they needed someone to share their story. The idea struck her like lightning. Could she stand publicly and articulate her journey, her fears, her purpose? It was a fork in the road. Speaking up meant rising to meet the scrutiny she had fled from for so long. Yet perhaps this vulnerability was her strength. She would walk into that room confronted by multiple sets of eyes and demand change, not just for herself, but for everyone who deserved justice. As she prepped for what lay ahead, an unsettling realization unfurled in her mind. The moment approached when she would face the very system that sought to silence her. Bracing herself, Jada acknowledged the magnitude of the journey ahead. Would she rise to the occasion, or would the weight of expectations crush her resolve? The uncertainty fluttered like a moth against a flame, urging her to action. Jada leaned in, determined to carve her path, driven forward by the fire ignited within her soul. But as she prepared for that inevitable moment of vulnerability, one question resonated deeply. Was she truly ready to challenge the injustice that lay ahead? Jada paced her small apartment, the weight of her decision pressing down with the force of a tidal wave. She had agreed to share her story at the upcoming meeting, but every step toward that moment felt increasingly treacherous. Memories of her past flooded back, criticisms whispered by peers, the mocking laughter of those who dismissed her ambitions. Could she possibly confront that specter while calling upon others to open up about their own pain? As she practiced in front of the mirror, the reflection staring back was a mashup of determination and trepidation. "I am more than my fears," she recited. Yet her voice cracked, revealing the cracks in her facade. Each rehearsal chipped away at her confidence and sowed seeds of doubt. What if she faltered under the scrutiny? What if the very thing that made her strong also exposed her to the very real dangers lurking in the shadows? The day of the meeting unfolded with a surprising sense of urgency. Just hours before stepping into the room where she would speak, Jada received another anonymous message, the threat dripping with intimidation. It stoked a familiar fire of anxiety. The echoes of danger lingered like a toxic cloud. She had grown accustomed to the threats, yet each one carved deeper into her consciousness. Would she ever feel safe again? Gripping the edges of her notebook until her knuckles turned white, she mentally steeled herself. In that moment, she felt a flicker of resolve. What if this fear was not a barrier, but a catalyst? Thoughts of Marcus flooded her mind. It was his story, the urgency in his voice that demanded change, that had spurred her own journey. He had fought so hard, she owed it to him, and to every other individual impacted by a failing system, to rise above her reservations. As Jada arrived at the venue, a wave of anticipation crashed over her. She entered a room filled with people who shared her conviction, and that infectious energy propelled her forward. Each seat filled whispered promises of solidarity, turning her fear into a palpable drive. It wasn't just about her, it was about the collective struggle for justice. Finally, the moment arrived. Jada stood in front of her audience, their faces a blend of support and apprehension. The microphone felt foreign in her hands, a cold metal reminder of the stakes involved. She took a breath, summoning every ounce of strength she could muster. As she started to speak, her voice wavered, but it surged with purpose, a sound forged in both fear and resolve. "I stand before you not just as a witness, but as a survivor," she declared, the words feeling both liberating and terrifying. The room held its breath. "I am here to confront not only my past, but also the systemic barriers that continue to crush our voices." The truth spilled forth, each sentence illuminating the darkness she had wrestled with for so long. Her heart raced, but her resolve solidified with every word she articulated. It felt as if she was shedding layers of doubt, each revelation dismantling the armor of fear that had long since encased her. But deep down, a question gnawed at her. Would the admission of her own vulnerabilities embolden others, or would it simply make her a target? The very doubt she had feared loomed heavier as her past, with all its specters, came alive in that room. Just as Jada prepared to unveil the more challenging aspects of her journey, a sudden commotion broke out across the room. Shifting, she caught sight of a newcomer, striding purposefully toward the gathering. A chill enveloped her. The newcomer radiated authority, yet concealed a mix of menace and expectation. Who were they? And what did their appearance herald for the movement they had all committed to? With her heart pounding, Jada had a choice to make. Would she confront this new threat head-on, or retreat into silence and risk the very reality she had fought to challenge? As tension filled the air, her voice steadied. This was the moment of truth she had been waiting for, and she would not back down. But as that realization crystallized, another thought crept in. What impact would her choice have on those watching? Jada's pulse thudded in her ears, drowning out the murmurs of the crowd. She could feel the newcomer's gaze upon her, an unsettling force that made the air around her crackle with tension. The moment she had built up to for weeks, a chance to share, to empower, to transform, was now complicated by this unexpected presence. It was a man, tall and sharply dressed, stepping into the spotlight with an almost theatrical confidence. As his dark eyes scanned the room, Jada's breath hitched. He loomed not just over her physically, but metaphorically, a figure who promised both danger and potential revelations. Was he here to silence her? Would he unleash another wave of ridicule and doubt? In the pit of her stomach, she felt a tightening, reminding her of past encounters where intimidation had driven her back into herself. But then she remembered Marcus, the urgency in his voice like a rallying cry. Those moments had ignited something within her, and this was no different. A decision loomed, the fight-or-flight instinct battling against her newfound sense of empowerment. "I'm not afraid of you," she said, surprising herself. The words left her lips with an unexpected firmness that she hadn't felt moments earlier. It wasn't just bravado, it was a recognition of her own resilience. As the man approached, she stood her ground, willing to confront whatever storm came next. He smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was the kind of smile that promised manipulation. "You think you have a voice, don't you?" he mocked. The crowd's tension emanated off them in waves, eyes darting between Jada and the newcomer, caught in the precarious balance between fear and anticipation. Her resolve wavered for the briefest moment. What would it mean for her to stand firm against this kind of authority? But she felt the weight of their silent support behind her, a reminder of why she had come here in the first place. Her voice gained strength with each word. "I didn't come here for validation. I came to speak the truth, and that truth is bigger than any threat you pose." Every syllable she uttered carved a space for her own agency, a liberation spurred by the fear that had so long shackled her. It focused her energy, allowing her to confront the man fully. In doing so, she shifted from being an object of scorn to a figure of resistance. Was this what empowerment felt like? An acknowledgement of personal strength in the face of intimidation? "Interesting choice," he replied, his voice deceptively calm, but his eyes revealed more. "Let's see if the crowd agrees with you. Truth has a strange way of vanishing when the light hits." At that moment, Jada anticipated a call for silence, maybe even a challenge to enforce order. Instead, a ripple moved through the audience. A few voices, emboldened by her courage, began to speak up, sharing their own fragmented truths, layering Jada's story and amplifying the collective vulnerability present. The newcomer appeared taken aback, his bravado faltering, but still, he held power in his grasp. It was the power to intimidate, to suppress. Feeling the momentum shift, Jada pushed onward. She didn't merely see the room as a platform for her own journey anymore. It had morphed into a crucible for transformation. Everyone was on the edge of something profound, a peer into the heart of injustice that permeated their lives. But now she faced another concern. Would her courage embolden the crowd enough to challenge the intruder's authority? Or would resistance breed further threats, aimed squarely at her own safety? As she spoke, her mind raced with strategies. Could she outmaneuver him? Find ways to engage the audience actively? This was not just about her isolated experience, but about sharing a path toward reclamation and empowerment. Jada inhaled deeply, ready to outline her aspirations for justice. But just as she began to articulate her vision for a future where voices like hers could thrive, a loud crash echoed in the back of the room. Every head whipped around, the interruption puncturing the growing momentum. Fear washed over her, the newcomer's predatory glint returning. Among the chaos, somewhere in the whirlwind of uncertainty, a singular thought dominated her mind. What were they willing to give up to reclaim their narratives before it was too late? Would they band together to fight against this new threat, or would they scatter, leaving her to confront it alone? In this moment, Jada faced the most pivotal choice yet: rally those around her, or risk losing the ground she had fought to gain. Jada's heart raced as the crowd reacted to the crash, a mix of gasps and murmurs rippling through the gathering. The tension she had painstakingly cultivated felt like a fragile bubble, threatened by an erratic surge of panic. A quick scan of the audience revealed faces etched with uncertainty, and with a desperate thought she questioned whether this was the moment where their alliance would shatter. "What was that?" she prodded, forcing herself to maintain an assertive tone despite the turmoil swirling within her. She needed to be the anchor, the voice that would steady their resolve, not just for her own sake, but for them all. As the crowd began to settle, the intruder's smile had faltered, confusion flashing across his face as he processed the interruption. Caught off guard, he took a step back, and Jada seized this fleeting advantage. "This is your chance," she declared, her voice rising above the fading noise. "We have the power to reclaim this space, but that requires a united front. Speak out. Let them hear you." A few tentative voices began to echo her call, hesitant but powerful in their solidarity. It rejuvenated her conviction, allowing Jada to feel a surge of adrenaline that ignited her mind. Instinctively, she knew that if she didn't push further, they might all retreat into silence once again, starved of the courage she had sparked in the room. She sensed the newcomer's intimidation shifting, his contours reshaping from aggressor to spectator. "You thought you could silence us, didn't you?" she continued, her words flowing freely, each syllable an assertion of strength. The atmosphere thickened with emboldened breaths and hearts. She was now tapping into a force greater than herself. It dawned on her that this was not just about her voice. It was about rediscovering the strength of the community she thought had been drowned out. A wave of connection surged as others found their voices, brandishing snippets of their own stories, misunderstandings, struggles, moments of injustice, each narrative fueling the embers of empowerment. Yet shadows loomed large over her triumph. The intruder remained poised, a predator shifted but not vanquished. Panic clawed at her mind, and she was struck by the magnitude of risk they were now facing. How far would he go to reassert control? Jada felt the frightened glances shared among the crowd. Their solidarity was tenuous. Just as the atmosphere began to feel electric with hope, a loud voice broke through. "You're not in charge here." It was a young woman at the front. "You don't own our truth." The reaction was instantaneous. A roar of agreement arose, echoing her defiance. With growing determination, Jada stepped forward. She was fueled by the realization that her personal development was mirrored in their engagement. Fear had transformed into strength. Vulnerability had become resilience. The words she had once struggled to express now flowed effortlessly, and her ideas transformed into a manifesto, rather than mere aspirations. Together, we can bring the truth back into the light. It lives in each of us, waiting to be exposed. As the tide of voices merged into a chorus, she glanced momentarily at the intruder. His satisfaction had since evaporated, replaced by a mixture of confusion and urgency. Underestimating them had been a fatal miscalculation. Jada shook off the instinct to retreat, recognizing the critical lesson unfolding right before her. Leadership isn't merely a title, it's the willingness to embrace uncertainty for the greater good. Let's reclaim our narratives. Let's stand together, unyielding. As his facade began to fracture, the intruder took a step toward the crowd, his stance shifting from aloof invader to desperate challenger. Jada's heartbeat quickened, her resolve was steeled. This was the moment they had the potential to reshape their trajectories. But as the tremors of defiance rippled through the room, she became acutely aware of the choice looming ahead. How would they respond if the intruder retaliated with force? Would they rally behind her, or scatter into fear and uncertainty again? The next step was crucial. Their brilliance illuminated a path ahead, but clarity remained ensnared in the remnants of tension. Would they rise or disperse? The outcome rested on that precarious balance, and every instinct screamed at her to lead them into the unknown. With the stakes higher than anyone could imagine, Jada felt the electricity of the crowd pulsating in synchrony with her racing heart. But the momentous shift in energy was now shadowed by her own internal conflict, the looming uncertainty of their collective fate. She could see the flicker of doubt in the eyes surrounding her, each person hanging on her next move. The intruder stepped forward, the confidence that had once marked his demeanor replaced with a fraying bravado as he scrutinized the assembly. Her mind raced, piecing together strategies amid the chaos. Jada knew they had tasted empowerment, but she also recognized that this fleeting moment of strength had potential to collapse, if not anchored purposefully. She could not waver. Her leadership demanded clarity, focus, and a shrewd direction. What could you possibly gain from intimidation? Jada challenged, her voice slicing through the charged atmosphere. She took a step closer to the intruder, fostering an image of fearlessness. It was a calculated risk, pushing the boundaries of confrontation. Do you fear the stories we carry? The truths we're willing to voice? In this standoff, she discovered a new piece of herself, the boldness to confront adversity on ground. This was more than defending the space. It was about exposing his vulnerability, stripping away the facade of authority. Jada fought back a wave of self-doubt, the echoes of her own past experiences urging her to retreat. But she had traversed too far, not just for herself, but for every soul represented in the crowd. Voices erupted in response to her call, an undeniable surge of solidarity igniting hope. Yet their intense reactions pulled Jada further into the fray. The stakes had risen. Would her resolve truly be the fire that guided them, or would she fall short of the unwavering leader they needed? A glimmer of inspiration ignited within her. We stand here together not as victims but as storytellers. Every one of us holds experiences that define who we are, and we refuse to be silenced anymore. Her voice tremored with exhilaration, the fervor burning away remnants of self-doubt. As the crowd rallied, the intruder's posture faltered, shifting from looming threat to someone desperate to regain control. In that moment, Jada understood something profound. His insecurity was a reflection of their collective strength. Her strategy unspooled before her like a riddle she'd finally solved, and she seized it. "Enough," she said, her firm tone resonating against the walls. "You've misjudged us. We're not remnants of your past failures. We're architects of our future." With this declaration, the atmosphere charged anew, an unspoken understanding amplifying her words. She recognized that this moment, illuminated by shared courage, was both a revelation for her and a commitment to not only lead, but to inspire. However, doubt still cast its shadow upon her thoughts, gnawing at her tranquility. What if her voice faltered? What if they weren't ready to follow? A single glance around the room revealed the fierce glimmers of determination, faces set with resolve reflecting her own. They were ready, and the realization coursed through her like a lifeline. With each passing moment, the dynamic swirled, setting the stage for Jada's next move. "We will speak. We will reclaim our power," she declared, watching her words spark newfound energy. The crowd swelled, their voices melding into an inspiring crescendo. But as Jada relished the sweet syncopation of empowerment, a sharp glance from the intruder shattered her triumph. His eyes were now cold, calculating. The facade of a desperate challenger faded to a frank acknowledgement. This conflict was far from over. He stepped back, but the tension was palpable, flesh and blood preparations for a showdown ahead. "Tell me, what are you willing to lose?" he asked, a thinly veiled threat etched into his words. A sharpened focus interrupted her moment of victory. Jada felt the weight of the question sink deep within her. A moral dilemma thrummed through her mind. What would she sacrifice for the truth, for this momentum she had built? This juncture felt charged with meaning as she stood on the precipice of a choice that could forge her destiny. What awaited her next as the lines of the confrontation blurred and the stakes rose higher? Jada's insides twisted at the intruder's question, an unsettling mix of defiance and anxiety brewing in her gut. The reality of his threat loomed larger than life, shaping the contours of her thoughts. What was she prepared to sacrifice? She had battled demons inside herself for so long, striving toward visibility and recognition. Now, faced with this adversary who threatened to snuff out her nascent victory, the idea of losing all she had fought for pierced her like a shard of glass. "Everything that has been built here today cannot be undone," she asserted, trying to exude confidence despite the tremors threatening to crack her voice. Every word felt catapulted from a deeper resolve, anchoring her to the principles she had embraced. Jada felt the gravitational pull of the crowd's energy behind her, feeding her resolve. But still, the fear crept in. Would this be the moment the tide turned against her? The intruder smiled, a cold, calculating grin that watched her wrestle with her own thoughts. "You think you're in control, but fear is a powerful motivator. Isn't that what brought you here?" Jada felt her pulse quicken, the challenge testing not only her leadership but her very identity. He insinuated that her journey stemmed from fear, a notion that invoked memories of her past, the doubts, the challenges, the cracks in her confidence. But she had risen above those whispers. Now more than ever, she had to prove that her strength came from necessity, not fear. She visualized everything she wanted to preserve: her voice, her purpose, her people. "I would lose everything before I let you dictate our narrative," she said, her heart pounding, wrapping her words in conviction. Each syllable reflected an undeniable truth she had embraced on her journey. She was not just standing for herself, but guiding others toward their own empowerment. In that moment, she felt more than a leader. She was a catalyst. Her resolve morphed into clarity, and she adapted her strategy, knowing the battle was as much psychological as it was physical. Jada scanned the crowd, noticing their eyes fixed on her with unwavering attention. Each gaze offered support, sparking a transformation within her. The power and the fear coalesced, shifting to a fire burning bright in her core. Leaning into the energy, she continued, "This isn't about intimidation. It's about reclaiming the narrative that's been robbed from us. It's about standing tall against those who thrive on silence. And I refuse to allow you to redefine what we've built together." The intruder's demeanor began to waver, and Jada seized the opportunity. She crafted her next words with precision, knowing each one had to pierce through the thick armor of his bravado. "You see a crowd of fragmented stories, but we're linked by resilience and purpose. We've forged bonds that cannot be unmade, and today we take that power back." As the crowd erupted into spontaneous cheers, Jada felt a surge of adrenaline shoot through her. The moment shifted in her favor. She had harnessed the latent potential in the room, and she refused to let that slip. Yet, a flicker of uncertainty threaded through her exhilaration. Could she sustain this momentum? Was her leadership capable of transforming this energy into something lasting? The intruder, rattled but refusing to break, narrowed his eyes. "You think this is over? You're just opening Pandora's box." Jada's heart raced at his words, but a resolute calmness settled in her chest. His threat didn't feel like the end. It felt like a fork in the road, an invitation to confront her next challenge head-on. "Then let's see what's inside," she replied, her voice steady and unwavering. With determination solidifying her stance, Jada knew the confrontation was merely the beginning. Each twist in this narrative wasn't just a test, but a vital step in her evolution as a leader, and she was ready for what lay ahead. But as she straightened up, realization dawned. A realization that they were not just fighting against one threat, but that the shadows of their pasts held deeper secrets. What would the next layer of this conflict reveal? And more importantly, what hidden truths about herself awaited her in the depths of that box? Jada stood resolutely at the front of the gathering, the energy in the room now electrified by her brave stance. Her heart hammered within her chest, but she had crossed a threshold from fear to understanding that her voice mattered. She had not only reclaimed her narrative, but began shaping the destinies of those around her. Each testimony a thread woven into a tapestry of resilience. With the intruder reeling from her strong defense, a moment of stillness hung in the air. The crowd's applause reverberated against the walls, creating an atmosphere thick with conviction. Jada felt it, the collective hope and determination beating as one. She realized that every struggle she had faced empowered her to confront this adversary. That moment on the street with Marcus had been the catalyst for unearthed strength. In that instance, Jada's clarity sharpened. She understood that this confrontation wasn't merely about her survival. It was about igniting a beacon of justice for all those silenced by fear and indifference. "When you threaten one of us, you threaten us all," she proclaimed, her voice cutting clear as crystal. It rang with newfound authority, galvanizing the collective will of her community. The intruder narrowed his eyes, sensing the tide had shifted. For too long he had relied on intimidation to quash dissent. But today was different. Empowered voices filled the air, and Jada's transformation from a timid soul wrestling with her ambitions into an unyielding leader resonated throughout the room. She stepped forward, anchoring herself in her role not only as an advocate, but as a defender of shared narratives. Each member in the crowd felt the potential for collective strength swell. As she recounted the stories that fueled her resolve, the room grew silent again. "We must document our experiences, gather evidence against abuse, educate our youth on their rights, and stand firm together," she urged, the fervor in her tone compelling each individual to contemplate their own strength. Jada's vision leaped beyond mere noise. It was now a purposeful call to action. Jada felt a sense of equilibrium settle in her heart as she witnessed a transformation, not just in herself, but in those who populated that space with her. Faces that had once been clouded by uncertainty now shone with determination. This was the beginning of something grander than she had ever dared to envision. A movement fueled by empowerment, not division. Suddenly, an older man in the front row stood up. "You speak the truth, and it's time we all speak it together. Let's not just recall our pain, but take action to reclaim our rights." His voice rallied the audience. and what had started as a small gathering exploded into a cacophony of eagerness. Jada experienced a moment of clarity. This was not solely her fight. It was a collective journey toward justice. And then, the intruder advanced toward her, desperation etched on his face. "You'll regret this. You're swinging the hammer of accountability, but don't assume it won't fall back on you." The alarm in his voice threatened to dampen the flourishing vigor of the crowd, but instead it solidified Jada's resolve. She stepped forward, embodying the unshakable courage she had fought to cultivate. "If this is what it means to fight for justice, then bring it on. We are not afraid of accountability." Each word was infused with the weight of collective experiences, drawing strength from her community's resolve, sending ripples of affirmation through the air. Standing there, this moment captured what she had achieved. A transformation from self-doubt to confident leadership, from isolation to solidarity. As voices strengthened those around her, Jada understood that she had succeeded in achieving a personal and communal renaissance, one that would ripple through her community and echo into the future. With the crowd growing more fervent, Jada embraced the exhilarating realization of her own metamorphosis. She was no longer merely a student aspiring to be an attorney. She had stepped into her rightful role as a leader and advocate. The echoes of fear that once held her back transformed into a powerful beacon of hope. In this space, she wasn't alone. She belonged to a purpose larger than herself. As the intruder could only watch helplessly, Jada proposed they create a structured plan, a coalition to address grievances directly with the system. "We will document every encounter, every injustice, and raise our voices to hold those accountable," she stated firmly. In the weeks that followed, Jada mobilized resources, gained legal knowledge, and forged connections, reinforcing her emergence as an established advocate for justice. She coordinated community meetings, hosted panels with local leaders and legal professionals, and implemented training for others to learn their rights. Jada had fully stepped into her role as a fearless agent for change, embracing her newfound confidence and asserting her place in a world tailored for those unafraid to speak out. She solidified her commitment to challenge the status quo, altering not only her narrative but that of everyone in her community. Her parents' pride radiated through their faces, especially when she earned accolades in local news as a community changemaker. The satisfaction of her family's recognition intertwined with her hard-fought achievements. She had not merely conquered her fears, but had sculpted a pathway filled with purpose and dignity. Ultimately, Jada had emerged radiant and resolute, engaged with a purpose that called her to rise higher than ever imagined. This intense journey had transformed her from a hesitant young woman into a steadfast advocate, embodying the very change she had long seized as her vision. And as she stood in front of the community, sharing stories of strides made, she felt nothing but raw accomplishment. The shadows of her past faded, leaving only the brilliant glow of her personal growth and the fulfillment she had achieved. Each tear shed had propelled her into a world where justice could reign, guarding against the injustices that had once burdened her family. Now, Jada Thompson was not a mere observer in a flawed system. She was a crucial player in the symphony of change, boldly advocating for truth and justice, forever cementing her legacy of resilience and hope. Join this movement by subscribing immediately to ensure you don't miss more powerful stories of individual transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for these courageous journeys. Comment below your reactions and theories about Jada's incredible journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need inspiration and empowerment in their lives. This is the moment to lift each other up. Don't wait even one more second to bring others into this transformational space.